What's going on, humans? And welcome to a new Psicoactivo. So, man, this one is a bit unnerving because it's been happening for already 3 weeks. These drone flaps or a flap. After that impromptu hearing they had, there was a congressman who used to be an Apache helicopter pilot who was really pissed off. And he said that that was the biggest waste of his time ever.
All right, so you're here today. You were just inside. You walked out. Why?
I walked out because it was worthless. It was the biggest amateur hour presentation I've ever seen about anything. Okay, it was ridiculous. There were no answers. Every question that was asked by a member of the state legislature, great questions, no answers, no resolution. They don't know where the drones are coming from. They don't know who's doing it. They don't know why they're doing it. But they say there's no credible threat. It was annoying to be there. I drove 2 hours to be here today. Spent an hour in there. I got to drive 2 hours back. The biggest waste of 5 hours in my entire life.
So why do you think they called this meeting?
No idea. Why would you call a meeting to tell people you don't know anything? I have no idea. And then when the legislators would ask questions, there were no answers. Here's the most frustrating part. The colonel of the state police said that he had a helicopter of his flying over above one of these drones, a 6-foot drone or something. I can't remember exactly what he said. And he felt unsafe for his helicopter, so he just let it go. Just let it go. Where'd it go? Who knows? Didn't want to follow it because you didn't feel safe. Is that not the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard? I mean, honestly.
Do they have any idea where these drones are originating?
No, they don't. They would. Maybe if they followed that sucker to when it landed, they would know. But they don't. This is a complete lack of effort, in my opinion, on trying to figure this out. This is not about ability. We have the technology. We have the people. We have the training. We have the resources. We have the money. It's just a lack of effort. I mean,
why?
I don't know. They should be saying, you know what they should have done today with productive use of our time if they didn't know anything? Come in there and say, hey, legislators, we don't know anything. But if you get us these 10 things, do these 10 things for us, and the governor calls in this kind of action, we can figure it out. Will you help us? And then we would have helped them. But instead it was just excuse after excuse and we know nothing. It was infuriating, and I got up and I walked out.
You've been in the service, right?
Yeah, I was an attack helicopter pilot, Apache helicopter pilot in the Army, and I helped stand up the initial unmanned aircraft training battalion in the aviation sector of the Army. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, and these guys are not doing the job they need to do to figure out what's going on, and that is the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and the state police.
And they're saying no threat to Americans.
They're saying no threat, but how the hell do they know? They don't know anything. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it come from. They don't know nothing. When I walked in here today, I was actually pretty calm. I was excited to be here to find out a couple things. I thought they'd be like, hey, listen, it's FedEx, trying to figure it out. But instead, I got the most ridiculous amateur hour briefing I've ever sat through.
Wow, that's truly upsetting.
Yep.
He spoke for the people at that very same moment because that's exactly the feeling that I'm getting from the majority of people who are wondering what the hell is going on. But there is a recent mixed message. It's an update from Belleville, New Jersey Major Melham. After a 500 major briefing that had never taken place before ended. And he gave a rundown of what was told to them. So here it is.
Jersey has some of the best detection equipment in the nation, I am told. We have by far the most robust equipment, is what the state police told us. The detection equipment is up, but not detecting. These are 6-foot drones that are somehow evading our detection. They are not being detected. Here's some unknowns. And again, they were very transparent today. So some of the unknowns, the state police says, unknowns, we have no idea where they're taking off from. No idea. We have no idea where they're landing. No idea at all. We have no idea who's behind them because, as I mentioned, they are not state, and we are told it is not federal. We have no idea the drone types, as I mentioned before, that they stay up about 6 to 7 hours. And if you're a drone operator, you probably know that that's a very, very long time. We know that we've gotten close, but when we do get close, the lights have gone dark and they have left the area. And we do know that they are flying, as I've repeatedly said, they are flying over critical infrastructure like reservoirs, Picatinny Arsenal, Trump Bedminster, and our nuclear power plants.
But then John Kirby, who when the shoot downs took place last year, he came out to calm everyone down, tell them that I don't know what the hell he told them. He couldn't say what these were. And now a Fox News reporter pressed him on this. And what you're about to see is, in my opinion, one of the biggest gaslighting demonstrations on the American public that I've ever seen, courtesy of National Security Advisor John Kirby.
John, on the drones, does the U.S. government have any of its own imagery or video of these systems?
I'm not aware that we have U.S. government produced imagery ourselves, but as I said in my opening statement, we have certainly done thorough analysis of the existing imagery.
Like from people's cell phones that we're seeing? Basically, with what you're looking at, how can you credibly tell people that there is no public safety threat, there's no national security threat, that there's no reason to believe that a foreign government is involved?
Because the analysis thus far, in an investigation that is ongoing, has not revealed any national security or malicious intent or criminal activity. But, Jackie, I would remind you, we're at the beginning here, not the end. There's a lot more work to be done, and we're working closely with state and local authorities to gain more information. I would argue that we're moving pretty well here with a sense of energy to try to figure out what we can do to learn more about this. We're still in the middle of an ongoing investigation, and I'm up here explaining to you and let you know what we know so far, what we believe so far. If information comes to light that changes that characterization, then my goodness, we'll be the first ones to let you know. But right now, there's just no indication that this is some sort of foreign malign activity or, in fact, even criminal.
Well, what I don't understand is, this has been happening since late November. I don't know that the law enforcement officials or residents in New York and New Jersey, or even the Democratic senators who wrote to Director Ray Mayorkas and the FAA administrator today would think that this has been handled with a sense of urgency. But that being said, has the President or the Secretary of Defense issued any guidance to NORTHCOM or military installations to act on these systems if they're deemed to be a threat in any way? And what's the benchmark for that determination?
So two thoughts. First of all, you're right, late November. It is now, the 12th of December. So I think it shows that we're moving on with this, and we're going to stay on it. So I want to disabuse you of any notion that we're not taking this seriously, because we are. I can also tell you that if the President, as Commander-in-Chief, believed, based on the information that he'd been given, that there was a national security threat at play here, or even a public safety threat at play here, he would issue the appropriate directives to not only law enforcement, but perhaps even the military if that was needed. I want to go back to something I said at the top. There has been no evidence of any of this activity in or near restricted spaces.
That's not what the senators said in the letter. They said, in fact, that they've been observed maneuvering their critical infrastructure, sensitive locations, including reservoirs and military installations, and cited a concern from law enforcement about public safety threats because a medevac helicopter was prevented from transporting a seriously injured patient for care because of the presence of these drones.
I stand by my opening statement.
Can you make that make more sense? Because I think people in New York and New Jersey see drones the size of an SUV over their house every night and think that that doesn't make any sense.
Certainly I understand why people would be looking at this and being concerned about it. We're concerned about it too, which is why we have the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, my goodness, looking at this. And we're taking it seriously.
See that smirk?
We understand that people are concerned.
That's
we understand
gaslighting.
that
Right
they
there.
got questions. We got questions too. And we're working hard to get the answers to that. What I can tell you as we sit here today, at 2:16 in the afternoon on the 12th, is we haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen.
The government know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery. We can't corroborate some of the reported sightings through our own expert analysis using sophisticated detection techniques, but that doesn't mean that we're putting our pen down here this afternoon and calling it a day. We're going to keep at this.
What are you doing now?
We are continuing to investigate it, as I said in my opening statement, 2 federal agencies, as well as the United States Coast Guard and state and local law enforcement officials, which we are staying in close touch with.
Picking up on drones, has it reached a level, or is there a level determined by which the president or the administration, more directly, would prohibit any use of the airspace, since it is regulated, for drones for a period of time to try to figure out who they are and to remove this anxiety that people in the Northeast are feeling?
I don't know that we're at a stage right now where we're considering that sort of a policy option, but I can tell you that we're going to keep an open mind here, and I think whatever policy options we determine are appropriate will be informed by the investigation. And thus far, in this early stage of the investigation, there's just no national security threat that we see and no public safety risk. So again, you want to be careful that you don't you don't jump to conclusions and you don't jump to policy options that may not be appropriate at this particular stage. But we'll obviously see where it goes, and we'll be informed by investigators.
One other topic with...
Yeah, so that's gaslighting. There's another part where he insinuated that people were going through a mass hysteria. Here it is.
Based involvement from coastal vessels. And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. Now, that said, we certainly take seriously the threat that can be posed by unmanned aircraft systems, which is why law enforcement and other agencies continue to support New Jersey and investigate the reports, even though they have uncovered no malicious activity or intent at this particular stage. While there is no known malicious activity occurring, the reported sightings there do, however, highlight a gap in authorities. And so we urge Congress to pass important legislation that will extend and expand existing counter-drone authorities so that we are better prepared to identify and mitigate any potential threats to airports or other critical infrastructure, and so that state and local authorities are provided all the tools that they need to respond to such threats as well. Now, tomorrow, there's a little thing called the Army-Navy game. We wish both sides a good game. We thank them for their service now, of course, at these service academies, and for their service in the future. We don't officially take sides here at the National Security Council, but go.
Yeah. So this only tells me one thing. Kirby already knows what these are. The president already knows what these are. They are saying that they don't know what they are because they can't reveal it. And now that government, military drones, and foreign arbitrary drones has been taken off the table by them, this only leaves 2 options. One of them is the most outlandish one that UFO enthusiasts want to be true, which is that these are some type of non-human intelligence messing with our perception. That is one option. That is an option that I still resist to accept, because we have to also consider the new technology discovered by humans option, which means that if this technology has been discovered by humans and they're saying that it is not military, that means that this technology came about through a private entity, meaning an aerospace company, but they are in league with multiple agencies from the US. One of these agencies, and I want you to understand this very carefully, the CIA has been really quiet on this. And if you have seen my channel over the last week or so, there was one person who was on my channel who said that they spoke to someone from the CIA high up. And that person told him that they were not going to follow fake news reports when he was asked about these drones. What does that tell you? I'm going to play something for you from 8 months ago. from a former CIA operative named David Morehouse. And he spoke about many different aircraft that the CIA was privy to and they knew about them. And a lot of these shapes are really, really interesting. So I want you to take a look at this. This is from Danny Jones' podcast.
Let's take a look at another craft here.
Yeah. What is this?
This is a
like something
Navy
from Star
craft.
Wars.
And the one on the right is an actual photo of the craft.
That's weird.
This
right?
craft now.
Wait, the one on the
Look who
right's an
made it.
actual photo?
The one on the right is an actual photo. This craft, its wings fold, and it is launched from a missile tube in a nuclear submarine. It is fired out of the missile tube with an air charge. Its missiles prepare to ignite, and it gets up out of the water. Its wings spring open. Its engine fires, and it flies. It is unmanned. It flies at supersonic speed, not hypersonic. It is a reconnaissance aircraft. But if they're admitting it's a reconnaissance aircraft, trust me, they are weaponizing it as well. They're never going to put something up just, as a sensory. It'll be an offensive jammer, or it'll do something else. And if it can fly like that, they'll bring it up and they will let it kill something one of these days.
The cormorant.
The idea is that this thing will go do its job. It comes back. It dives just like a cormorant, the bird, right? It folds its wings in. It hits the water. And they're saying that right now it has to be intercept a cable, and it's towed back into the missile compartment. I have it on for good authority that it's way past that point now. It can come back. It can fold its wings. It can hit the water. It finds the sub based on
the little skunk right
a
there.
homing beacon, and it goes to the submarine, folds itself up, and goes back into the missile tube.
They even got the fucking Lockheed logo right on the side.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, that would be the big test piece of it, right?
General Dynamics.
General Dynamics right there.
That's what I said. Anytime you're looking at a black project, there will be every major aircraft development contracting. They all have their classified branches. They build, luxury liners for commercial travel, and they also have their classified branch that builds weapons, space vehicles, and classified aircraft like this. It's an ongoing, constant process of improving, redefining the mission, developing the aircraft, building the aircraft, testing the aircraft, dropping the ones off that they're no longer interested in, and continuing with the black projects for the ones that they do want.
This is part of, after this segment, Morehouse goes on to talk about the history of space wars, and he drops like a timeline. I already shared a video there that I'm going to leave in the description where Matthew Pines talks about this in detail too. And I want you to understand something about the folks at the CIA. If these drones that are in Jersey and the UK are not being talked about, and they're saying that they're not from the military, there is an option that they might be from the military, but they are SAPs, special access programs. And multiple of these companies are private entities, Lockheed, General Dynamics, Boeing, all of these. And those being private companies can give the government the plausible deniability to say, no, this is not military, this is private, or we don't know what it is. So I also want you to understand something that Mr. Andrew Bustamante talks about the CIA culture and how they regard humans, or in this case, the American people. But this is how they see people. And I want you to understand that because the CIA and the Air Force have been awfully quiet about this. And I do incline myself to think that they know exactly what we're dealing with. And it could be something along these lines. So those are the two options. But let me play you this clip from Andrew so you can understand what I mean.
People need to accept that just like parents want to keep secrets from their kids, wives want to keep secrets from their husbands, you want to keep secrets from your mom and dad, and you do it for their best interest, right? Like your mom and dad don't need to know the things that keep you up at night. Your kids don't need to know the things that keep you up at night. You don't want to know the kinds of things that keep your teenage kids up at night, right?
That's right.
The same thing is true with government secrets. The stuff that keeps senior administrators up at night, you don't fucking want to know that. You do not want to know. Not only is it incredibly detailed, incredibly boring, it's also usually it's not something that's going to get resolved quickly, right? The Iran problem that keeps people up at night is not going to get resolved in the next 24 hours. Right. It's going to keep them awake for the next 3 years. So why bother the American people with that? First of all, you've got to think that the government looks at the American population as an economic engine. They don't see them as people. They don't see them as civilians or kids or innocents. They see them as a functional, productive entity, an organism. The job of that organism is to create economic power, GDP. So the reason we keep America safe is to keep the economic engine safe that generates the GDP that pays the bills for the largest military, the most capable intelligence service in the world, which then protects the engine that generates the GDP, and you can see how the cycle goes. It's just, that's all it is. The problem is that the American people think that they should be seen as individuals. They don't realize they're a collective. Once you accept the fact that your individuality, you have independence and freedoms that were granted to you by a government that sees you as one piece of a larger organism. As soon as you threaten the organism, like a criminal does, then you get taken out. You get taken out of that organism and put somewhere else. So you are not entitled to know what the government knows to keep you safe. You're not. You're entitled to know what it takes for you to do your job as the organism that creates the GDP. The same way that parents protect their children by keeping secrets and spouses protect each other from keeping secrets. If you want to know someone else's secrets, look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I willing to share my secrets with the world? Because if you're not willing to be fully transparent with the world, you have no reason to expect that somebody else should be transparent with you, especially not the US federal government.
Yeah.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the culture of these agencies. They don't think we are entitled to know the truth. They think we don't even have a right to know the truth. That is what they grow up with at these agencies. And that is part of what we're dealing with now. That is why the people at the state government level are confused and are coming out with different reporting from the federal government. Because even people within government, but at a more local level, they don't see that they have a right to know anything about new technology or any type of conflict that they're dealing with. And I think that there needs to be a new type of culture that can include the people. This is going to be really difficult because it's been a war that has been fought for decades now, since the agencies took over the government, because they did. There was a time when the government was running things, but you and I know that these agencies have been controlling the government for many decades alongside these private enterprises. And it is not just aerospace companies. There's many different types of enterprises that currently control policy within the US and outside too, international policy too. So this is what we're dealing with right now. At this point, I am not sure if all of these are just drones, because there was a report in Oregon about multiple commercial airliners reporting on a red object that was traveling at insane speeds, and it buzzed past them multiple times. So that object can't be considered a drone, and there's audio report on it. That's one. There's also these drones in New Jersey. Those could potentially be from a private entity, and the CIA could know about them, exactly what they are. And I would say that the federal government knows what these are too, but they can't say. Why? We don't know. We're asking questions. We want to know. And the people in the local government also want to know. They're just as confused as the rest of us are. So, what can we do to change this? I'm asking you, people from the comments. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about this David Morehouse information. You can go to the podcast with Danny Jones. It's a really thoroughly informative podcast. He talks about the Phoenix Lights. He says that they were man-made. So does this mean that the US government has had craft, or these private entities have had craft that make no sound and they can hover for 45 minutes over a populated area? Does that sound familiar? Because some of these drones are not making any noise. Some are, but some aren't. So let's keep digging and tell me what you think about John Kirby's statements, and let me know what you think about the mayor's statements. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. If you want to support the channel in any other way, I'm going to leave a few links in the description. Take your pick. Every help is always appreciated. So thank you. The holidays are coming, people. Tomorrow we have a special treat for you. It's a surprise. I'll let you know. Without further ado, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.